pop culture and the quirkier side of life. The Todd Starnes Commentary.
The minuscule government shutdown has reached the absurd. President Obama seems to be operating under the Saul Alinsky philosophy of maximizing the people's pain and blaming the opposition. Case in point, Lake Mead in Nevada. Around 60 families own private homes on government land. Last week, these homeowners were served with eviction notices, told they would not be allowed back home until the government shutdown ended. They were given 24 hours to pack up and get out. And that got me to thinking. The White House sits on government land, so why hasn't the first family been evicted? Maybe it's time to tell the president to grab a suitcase and pack up his mom jeans. He can stay down at the Motel 6 until they get this shutdown figured out. What's good for the taxpayer should be good for the tax taker. And by the way, Mr. President, they'll even leave the light on for you. I'm Todd Starnes.
Mom jeans. Tell you right now, that cracks me up. I've never seen my baby in a pair of mom jeans. My honey, my love. No. And that's why I'm laughing right now, because if she had, I probably wouldn't laugh. I'd be like, oh, mom jeans, that's funny. Oh, yes. I'd still laugh. She would too. Hey, Creighton Durham back with you. Happy Monday. Hope you're not having a case of them. Let me just throw this at you. What do liberals believe? What do conservatives really believe? What are their principles? What are they really fighting for? Do you think that people who disagree with you on, I'm speaking to both liberals, conservatives, R's, D's, I's, whatever you are, okay? Do you think that the people you disagree with want to hurt America? They want, in essence, they want to destroy America. Now, I've thought a lot about this because I've made arguments in the sense of, well, I see a lot of the president's policies and they are very destructive, but do I think he's sitting there like Dr. Evil going, this is how I need to do it? No, I think he's sitting there in the sense of, hey, we know better than the people. I can't trust Americans with their freedom. The best thing to do is to move toward a more statist economy where we can really fix the problems that need to be fixing, like global warming. Yeah, and be more energy efficient. And to make sure, in essence, we need to protect women's right to kill their babies. Now, he wouldn't put it that way because he doesn't even want to engage in that level in the sense of, well, he does. Actually, he's a big supporter of Planned Parenthood and the results and the actions and how we judge him. But my point is, do I think he is actively trying to destroy America? No, he's trying to remake America, and he believes it's the best way to go. Now, people can be misguided, and certainly you can analyze their policies, not make it personal, and say he believes what he is doing is the right thing to do. And I can say that, being honest. He truly believes it. He believes it will make America and the world a better place. But he doesn't believe in freedom. And you say, Crane, how could you say that? Well, let's go to cut number 18. In a speech in Kansas, here's the president talking about the free market a few years back. Roll it.
Now, just as there was in Teddy Roosevelt's time, there is a certain crowd in Washington who for the last few decades have said, let's respond to this economic challenge with the same old tune. The market will take care of everything, they tell us. If we just cut more regulations and cut more taxes, especially for the wealthy, our economy will grow stronger. Now, it's a simple theory. And we have to admit, it's one that speaks to our rugged individualism and our healthy skepticism of too much government. That's in America's DNA. And that theory fits well on a bumper sticker. But here's the problem. It doesn't work. It has never worked.
And that's what he believes, and he talked about the safety net and the importance of government from there. He doesn't believe freedom works. Well, he's just saying it's not perfect, Crane. Name one system that is. Well, he wants to take care of the poor, Crane. He wants to take care of those in need, which he's creating more and more of, by the way, through his policies. Yeah, but again, if you're going to do that, once you put it on the local level and have the church do its rightful role and allow for that to happen and not put a great burden on the people that are contributing to organizations and their church to provide these social services, because they will do it much better job of it, because it will be local, and rather than 30%, 30 cents of every dollar getting to the people in need, we'll get 60 to 90 cents on the dollar to the people in need. I mean, it's more of a idea of how here and understanding that. So, no, he believes that the government can do things, and there's an idea of perfection, which is the idea of building a more perfect union. I guess you could go through that, but the point is it's never existed. There are people who've tried, and they always attempt to try it, not through the liberation of the individual, but actually through subjugation of the state. Now, they wouldn't characterize it that way, but again, that's the result. So, not believing in that. And then we have economic philosophies of what takes place. I mean, it doesn't take a rip in Einstein to recognize that when people start speaking of equality, the net effect of that, no matter how well-intentioned it is to say, well, let's look at history. Everybody gets less, and the people that benefit are the people making the rules. See, I don't think people really have a problem with lobbyists advocating for what they want to believe. I mean, people can do that. The problem is a system that allows it to do it with the special carve-outs and the cutouts. And it's certainly something to be held in and to account. Pardon me. That's the recognition of that, because the government's using that power. Now, if the people say, hey, don't do that, you're distorting things, you're allowing for this to take place, well, not a lot of people are going to Washington with their dollars saying, I can't do that. I'm not going to get a little carved-out industry where 90% of the loans go to supporters of a particular president and end up being for green energy, which can't make it on the free market in the sense without a government subsidy, be it wind or otherwise. And so I don't need that. I need free market. They trust that. But in order to make things work and to confront failure, we must talk about equality, which plays on our, 10th commandment violation of wanting what others have and demonizing money. Money's not evil, by the way. It's neutral. It could be used for good and it could be used for bad. If it's your God, that's wrong. That's when you've elevated it. But if you use your state as the God, that's wrong too. I mean, in bottom line, you're going to enslave yourself to it. God's God. Just remember that. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Well, I figured I'd join the show at some point. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Now, let's talk about policies that purport to help the people in need, the poor. And this is illustrated so well in a debate that took place between the late, great Margaret Thatcher, Prime Minister of Great Britain at the time, and a member from the opposite party during question time of the Labour Party. And here is the exchange. It's beautimous. Roll it.
That over her 11 years, the gap between the richest 10% and the poorest 10% in this country has widened substantially.
That's right.
How can she say at the end of her chapter of British politics that she can justify many people in a constituency such as mine being relatively much poorer off, much less well housed, and much less well provided than it was in 1979? Surely she accepts that is not a record that she or any Prime Minister can be proud of.
Mr. Speaker, all levels of income are better off than they were in 1979. But what the honourable member is saying is that he would rather the poor were poorer, provided the rich were less rich. That way you will never create the wealth for better social services as we have. And what a policy! Yes, he would rather have the poor poorer, provided the rich were less rich. That is the Liberal policy. Yes, it came out. He didn't intend it to.
I always just get a smile when it's like hearing, do you believe in miracles? Yes! Out of the NHL, not the NHL, pardon me, the 80 Olympics and the miracle at the 80 Olympics. That's what it is, because it really does show the result of the policies and the intention and the way it's used, and it's done within a very short period of time. Now, the reason I play this, and I've played this before, is because I want you all to get an understanding. How, Crane, does this relate to the debt ceiling? I mean, come on, man. You just played a free market one, and then you just played Margaret Thatcher. What is that all about? It's about what people believe, what their intent is, and what the result is. That's what we must confront. And conservatives oftentimes lose the emotional debate without highlighting first and foremost the results of the intention or the current policy or the promise. And the fact is, when we look at what people believe, we have to look at their record, what they believe. Like that we have a debt ceiling debate coming up. It's already here through the continuing resolution, too. It's going right into that. And somebody who's certainly for raising the debt ceiling is Harry Reid, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. But in 2006, he had this to say about raising the debt ceiling with President Bush. Roll it.
$3 trillion over the last 5 years is the right thing to do. They should be upfront about it. They should explain why they think that more debt is good for our economy. How can the Republican majority in this Congress explain to their constituents that trillions of dollars of new debt is good for our economy? How can they explain that they think it's fair to force our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren to finance this debt through higher taxes? That's what it'll have to be. Why is it right to increase our nation's dependence on foreign creditors? They should explain this. Maybe they can convince the public they're right. I doubt it. Because most Americans know that increasing debt is the last thing we should be doing. After all, I repeat, the baby boomers are about to retire. Under the circumstances, any credible economist would tell you we should be reducing debt, not increasing it.
Now, that's a pretty good argument. How has that changed in the time? Well, Crane is a different president, and circumstances, and we've made it. What's changed? I mean, if you truly believe you're putting debt on the backs of children, how on earth could you support a man who put much more debt on the backs of our kids? How could you? Oh, because it's not going to bend the cost curve. In fact, it's done everything. It's been the bizarro of the promise in the sense of the exact opposite. It's increasing healthcare costs. It was 100% off in its calculation. So tell me how Obamacare is going to do that. How the policies that we've seen from the tax and spend party, as we know at the left, going to work. How has this ever worked? Can you point back in time? No, you can't. But you were asking some great questions in 2006, Harry Reid. You were asking some great questions, and you were making some very good points. Now, I agree. Listen, you talk about politicians, they're going to switch, and they're going to play the game, and you can argue that each and every situation is a little different, but the principles are not. And when we talk about the principles of the argument here, they haven't changed. And we're talking about locking in government control, incidentally. Locking in government control over 1/6 of the economy and our lives in a way that no other sector can reach, and that is healthcare. Mika Brzezinski took aim at Ted Cruz this morning on Morning Joe. And the debate was before them about why the Republicans were doing what they were doing when they've painted themselves into a corner with the CR and the debt ceiling, and how they're going to be looked at as the obstructionists. And here's what she had to say, and Joe Scarborough and her go back and forth. Roll it.
They did.
Why did they double down on
with
this?
one exception, which is it is President Obama at the end of the day is responsible for the country and the economy. So he could quote unquote win, but it would be a Pyrrhic victory. So it's a game of chicken that really neither side wants to go off the edge here.
That shows just how much they hate him and don't love the country, and that's what's scary about this. This comes down.
I know.
If they actually go through with this,
they love the. Are you saying they? Are you saying they don't love the country?
Are you saying they do?
Yes, of course I'm saying they do.
Ted Cruz and his group
yes, they
loves
love
the country.
Yes, I have never once suggested that even
we disagree.
And that there's more to Joe Scarborough explains it, but here it is in a nutshell. Demonizing the other person to the degree of you don't want what's right for the country. But if you came down and you realized that 2 + 2 doesn't equal 5, and you looked at what was promised and what has been delivered, you looked at the fact that they're now citing a deficit number that they say is coming down, but it is still 40% higher than George Bush's highest deficit, which was so-called un-American to do. Now, you look at that, and you look at the realities of not confronting entitlement reform, and when dealing with a plan that deals with actually solving the problem or fixing the problem or getting on the way to do that, they talk about Granny being thrown off the cliff and scare people. What do they truly believe? They believe government. They believe in government, and that's not going to stop with one bill, one law. It's just going to continue. It is a place where they're going to reach what they believe is the ultimate destination. Now, some would say, we don't want that. We just want the government to do, what they should under the General Welfare Clause. We just want them to take care of those who can't take care of themselves. But in their heart, they don't trust freedom. It gets back to the original statement here by President Obama in 2011. And if you understand that and you're on the left, you better be very I caution you. I caution you, and I ask you to listen. You're advocating for your freedom to be lost to the elected body of government and bureaucrats. Think about that when it's not the party that you support in the sense of ideology is in charge. Think about that. Freedom. This is about freedom. That's why they're turning the attention to it. They're also turning the attention to the tactics used by the left when it comes to this freedom, and those tactics employ the pawns of the left, and I'll explain that on the flip side. AFR Talk.